you guys can still see the presentation.
Yes.
So, all right, I will start the webinar then. Okay, seems like we have some people coming in. Let's give it another minute or so. Seems like we're slowing down a little bit. All right, I think everyone is in. Okay. All right, so thank you everyone for joining us today for our Lab Life Balance workshop. My name is Afrida Rahman Enyer, and I am a scientific liaison here at Protein Tech. And this is part 1 of 2 of this event. So today we have 2 wonderful speakers who will be talking about how to maintain your physical health while trying to balance your busy lab schedules. So we'll also be raffling off 2 prizes at the end to help you with your lab life balance. And also don't forget to register for part 2 if you haven't done so already, which will be on Thursday. And this will cover how to manage your mental health. So we'll have a clinical counselor and a finance manager joining us for that. Okay. So I just want to first thank all the life scientists for your hard work. So Protein Tech really values our scientists, and that's why we participate in Life Scientists Appreciation Week. And during this week, we are going to have daily raffle giveaways. So for example, today, you can enter our raffle to win Apple AirPods. We are also doing a grand cupcake event where we are traveling to different universities and giving away free cupcakes. And of course, we're hosting this Lab Life Balance workshop. So if you are interested in entering your name for our raffles or seeing whether we have a cupcake truck that's going to your university, please check out our socials for more information about our LSAW events. So before we begin the workshop, I just want to take a couple minutes to just share a little bit of a couple short company slides so that you know who we are as Protein Tech. So Protein Tech is a leading manufacturer of antibodies, immunoassays, and recombinant proteins. We have antibodies against more than 13,000 targets. We also offer ELISA kits, IHC kits, and cell separation kits. In 2020, we acquired Chromotech, and Chromotech develops nanobody-based reagents for immunoprecipitation, for immunofluorescence, and for protein purification. The third product line that we have here at Protein Tech is Humankind. Humankind manufactures cytokines and growth factors, and all our proteins are expressed in human HEC293 cells, meaning that they have native folding, post-translational modifications, and glycosylation. And we offer both research use only and GMP grade products. So what makes Protein Tech different from other companies is that our products are manufactured in-house and only sold by us with our Protein Tech label. So you won't see our products under any other company name. We also offer full transparency about our products. So we share detailed reports about our product performance, including original validation data and quality control. Oh, sorry, guys. Sure why this isn't advancing. All right. And lastly, I would also like to share not only the success of us as a company, but also our customers as well. So our customers have cited Protein Tech products in over 130,000 publications worldwide. And we're also very proud that Protein Tech won the Researcher's Choice Award from CiteAb this year, letting us know that our customers really do value our products. So with that, I want to introduce our first speaker for today, Madison Brugger. So Madison is a dietetic intern at the Mayo Clinic in Jacksonville, Florida. She has had a diverse career in the fields of psychology, childcare, baking, and nutrition. From her experiences in these fields, she has gained a desire to help others realize that health goals while following the motto that all food fits. So thank you, Madison, for joining us today, and I'll let you take it away. If at any time you guys have questions during the presentations, just feel free to drop your questions in the chat box and we will address them in the Q&A after each talk. So I will let you take it away, Madison.
Okay. Well, let's start this up. All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Afrida, for that introduction. My name is Madison Brugger. I am a dietetic intern at the Mayo Clinic, and I'm here to talk about why you're always tired and how your food can help. So many of us are familiar with the generalized concept of the circadian rhythm. It's the pattern of hormone production and suppression that our bodies are meant to follow to help us stay awake and fall asleep at the correct amount of time. It's important to recognize, though, that modern day schedules don't exactly allow us to follow these. Sometimes we'll wake up fairly early, and then on the weekends we sleep in. We might go to bed early sometimes and later others, right? And then we also are influenced by light exposure. So that's overhead lighting as well as screen lighting that helps to mimic sun exposure. These all prevent our body from properly following our circadian rhythm. When we're not in alignment with our circadian rhythm, we can experience symptoms such as chronic fatigue, stomach upset, difficulty falling asleep and staying asleep, brain fog, memory alteration, and a lowered immune system. On that positive note, how do we improve our sleep and feel better when our schedules are hectic? 4 main concepts that we can all incorporate into our daily routine are prioritizing balanced meals, eating breakfast, keeping caffeine to the first portion of our day, and then staying hydrated. So let's talk more about those. How to create balanced meals. One way that we can do this is to focus on something called the plate method. This was developed by the USDA to help us encourage and be able to visually see what we need to put on our plates most of the time to eat a balanced diet. You can see in the image that half of that photo is going to be fruits and non-starchy vegetables. These are going to produce antioxidants and phytonutrients, all which fight inflammation and oxidation in our bodies. We also want to eat proteins, especially lean proteins. So some examples of those are going to be fish and poultry, eggs, as well as our non-animal sources, our plant sources. Those are going to be legumes, nuts, seeds, beans, tofu. All of these are going to also contain fiber, which help us stay full for longer.
Madison,
finally,
I'm sorry to interrupt. Your sound is a little low. I don't know if your speaker might be covered or something. No, it was working fine before.
Yeah, I don't know what's up there. Can you hear me better now?
That's better on my end. Is that better for everyone else? If you want to put in the chat, way better. Okay, awesome. So I'll let you then. Yes.
Okay, so I'll just have it. Thank you for telling me. Our last portion that we want to incorporate is going to be a quarter of our plate filled with carbohydrates or starchy foods. These are going to come in 2 different formations. They're going to be our slow digesting carbohydrates and our fast digesting carbohydrates, or our slow carbs and our fast carbs. Our slow carbs are going to be those whole grains, products like brown rice, whole grain pastas, whole wheat bread. These are going to digest slower through our system because our body has a harder time doing that, and it increases our ability to have sustained energy. We want to keep these forms of carbohydrates to the beginning and middle of our day. We can also consume those fast carbohydrates. That's white potatoes, white bread, white pasta, white rice, sweet potatoes. These are all going to digest very quickly and cause an immediate energy increase into our system, followed by increased absorption of tryptophan. Tryptophan is a precursor to melatonin, which is our sleepy hormone. So we want to make sure that if we're going to be eating those refined carbs, they're later in the day. I don't don't know about you guys, but I've definitely experienced eating a big bowl of pasta and feeling exhausted after. That's why. Alongside this main meal, we also want to include our healthy fats. These are going to be our monounsaturated fats, which are found in nuts, avocados and avocado oil, olive oil, peanut oil, and fatty fish. And then we want to include our dairy or dairy substitutes. And of course, our occasional foods. For some people, those might be saltier, like potato chips, pizza. For me, it's definitely the sweeter foods. So pastries, ice cream, or ice cream substitutes are definitely where I tend to incorporate those occasionally into my diet. There we go. So let's build some meals. This is a full day's worth of food that is packed with all of the nutrients we need to fuel our energy and feel energized throughout the day. So for breakfast, we've got our protein, we've got our milk and our peanut butter. We've got our starchy carb, it's a whole grain oatmeal, and then we have our fruits and vegetables. So I have bananas for sweetness, some blueberries, and then some frozen rice cauliflower. Don't knock it till you've tried it. For lunch, I've got some beans with some brown rice. Again, that's slow digesting carbohydrate, followed by a full arrangement of vegetables. So you can do greens like lettuce, peppers, cucumber, avocados for some healthy fats. And then maybe you want to throw some chocolate in there. I know that I usually do. For dinner, we're going to start off with that protein again. So you can do something like salmon. We want our quicker digesting carbohydrate at the end of the day. So maybe some mashed potatoes. And then again, our vegetables and fruits. So I have some broccoli here that you can roast with a side salad. And then, of course, you're allowed to introduce those occasional foods. So that might be some cookies, that might be a glass of wine. All of these things can be added in moderation to a healthy diet. So why do we want to start off our day with breakfast? Eating 1 to 2 hours after waking allows our body to be notified that we are going to be awake for a long portion of time. It allows our bodies the energy to perform better cognitively, physically, and emotionally because we're providing it with what it needs to sustain our energy. Some great balanced breakfasts might look like eggs with toast and a banana, some oatmeal with peanut butter and blueberries, a smoothie with fruits, vegetables, oats, and almond butter, or a Greek yogurt with cereal and fruit. None of these take more than 5 minutes to make. They're quick, and they're also very nutritious. Let's talk about caffeine, everyone's favorite topic. Caffeine is not a bad thing. It's a natural stimulant, so it increases activity in our nervous system. When we consume caffeine, we have increased alertness, increased short-term memory formation, we decrease our brain fog, and we can increase our mental capacity. What we don't want, however, is to consume our caffeine too late in the day. The half-life of caffeine is 3 to 7 hours. So 3 to 7 hours after consuming our caffeine, we still have 50%. 3 to 7 hours after that, we still have 25%. And that keeps going. It keeps the caffeine in our system a lot longer than most people realize. When we consume caffeine, even 6 hours before sleep, research has shown that we can disrupt the ability to fall asleep and the ability to stay asleep. How much caffeine is too much caffeine? Research indicates that about 400 milligrams per day is the maximum that anyone wants to consume daily. And to put that into perspective, the average cup of coffee has about 100 milligrams. The average shot of espresso has about 65. The average 16-ounce cold brew has 200. And the average Celsius energy drink has 200 milligrams. So you can combine those how you want, but the goal is to consume your last amount of caffeine no later than 8 hours before bed. You also, during the rest of the day, don't need to completely cut out some of those warming or beverages that you might just enjoy drinking. So you can stick with herbal or caffeine-free or decaffeinated options. I do like to note, however, that decaf does not mean caffeine-free. Decaf still has trace amounts, about 7 milligrams per cup. So it's not likely to affect your sleep, but it's not impossible depending on how well you tolerate. Hydrated bodies are energetic bodies. Why do we want to stay hydrated if we're talking about sleep? Hydration and sleep are actually a cycle. Those who are hydrated have an easier time falling and staying asleep, and those who get good sleep are more likely to stay hydrated. That's because at the end of our sleep cycle, we produce vasopressin. Vasopressin is a hormone in the body that helps regulate our osmotic pressure. It helps us stay hydrated. So if we're not getting sleep, we're more likely to be dehydrated. And then when we're dehydrated, we're less likely to sleep well. So if you notice that you haven't had a good night's sleep, it's really important to stay hydrated. How much do you have to drink to stay hydrated? The goal is to drink about 64 ounces or 8-ounce cups of water per day plus losses. Losses will constitute any form of moderate to vigorous activity or direct sun exposure. So if I spend 30 minutes at a workout class, I'm going to make sure to drink an extra 16 ounces of water. This doesn't have to just be water though. This also includes any beverages that aren't caffeinated and don't have added sugar. So that could be sparkling water, that could be fruit-infused water, or herbal teas. So you know what to do, but a lot of those things take a lot of time. I like to remind people, especially my patients, that healthy food is only healthy if we actually eat it. So when we don't have a lot of time to be preparing, making, cooking all the time, let's focus on some really easy, maintainable goals that will help us to incorporate these healthy foods into our regular routine. For those, I like to look at MVP meals. I like to unpack and prep foods right away, keep them visible, add condiments and sauces for flavor, and it's okay to rely on semi-homemade when we need to. MVP meals, what are they? MVP stands for My Plate Method Friendly, so those are balanced meals, very easy to clean. If I don't have time to cook, I likely don't have time to clean a bunch of dishes. So these are going to be one pot or sheet pan meals, instant pot friendly or slow cooker options, and they're going to be pantry accessible. So pantry or freezer foods that you can store for a couple of weeks in case you can't make it to the grocery store, you still have all the components to make a healthy, balanced meal. In my house, I really love a good lentil soup. So I always in my pantry will have lentils, canned coconut milk, canned tomatoes, broth, and then I keep onions in my freezer and spices in the pantry. So I know that if worst comes to worst, I can consume a balanced meal in under 15 minutes by just what I can take from my pantry. Other examples might look different for you. So cheese omelet with vegetables, if you include a starchy and a non-starchy vegetable, that's a balanced meal, or you can eat it with a piece of toast. One pot quinoa chili. Quinoa is both a whole grain and a protein. So you can utilize quinoa to cover 2 of your bases and you only need to add vegetables. Low sodium canned soup, that's where we pull from those semi-homemade meals, right? So you might not have time to make every portion. Maybe you rely on that low sodium canned soup, but then you can add your homemade portion, your grilled cheese, which will give you that whole grain from your bread, and then some broccoli, you can heat it up from frozen. And that's a balanced meal that takes minimal time to make. Lastly, I like to talk about sheet pan meals. They're so easy to add your protein, your starchy vegetable, and your non-starchy vegetable to a sheet. Add some oil and some spices, and you've now prepared every single ingredient on one tray that you can eat all together or use individually throughout the week. Some really great recipe resources for finding what MVP meals will work for you and your family include websites like wellplated.com, mayoclinic.org/healthy-lifestyle/recipes, or if you're looking for more plant-based options, Minimalist Baker is really great. So if you're looking at that last sheet pan meal and saying, like, that's not going to save me time, I have to prepare all those vegetables, make sure to keep in mind that you can also prep those ahead and keep them visible in your fridge. So as soon as you get home from the grocery store, or if you're fortunate enough to have your groceries delivered, as soon as they're delivered, take that extra 15 to 20 minutes when you might have a bit more time and prep those ingredients. So cut up your vegetables, marinate your proteins, and have those ready in the fridge in a visible way so that when you are busy and you're rushing, you're able to pull from them and utilize them and not let them go to waste. I don't know about you guys, but when I'm packing a lunch, I'm much more likely to grab a handful of pre-washed and cut lettuce than take an entire head of lettuce and chop it up if it's in the morning and I'm rushing. You can also do this for snacks. So a lot of us can maybe eat balanced meals, but then when it comes to snacks, we choose those convenience foods. So taking a bit of time at the beginning of the week to prepare a vegetable or fruit with a protein and a carb allows us to take those meals and go and fuel on nutrient-dense foods and not have to rely on some of those less healthy options. We can also prepare as much as possible. So I like to look at these smoothies bags. I do these every week. So at the beginning of the week on Sunday, I will open up a bunch of these freezer-friendly bags, and I'll add in my fruits and vegetables. I'll add in my protein source, so that could be a nut butter or hemp seeds or protein powder, and then I'll add my whole grains. So that's usually oats. You can also leave it out and then add your, oats later, or eat it with a piece of toast or crackers. If you put all this in a bag, you can date it and freeze it. And then the day that you're actually making these ingredients, all you have to do is pour the bag into the blender, add your liquid, and you have a smoothie that only took 1 minute versus 5 minutes to make. So on those busy mornings, it's a great option. Other examples of this might be things like overnight oats or egg cups, where you can scramble a bunch of eggs at once into a bowl with some vegetables, pour them in a muffin cup and bake them. And then they freeze really well. So you can pull them out from morning of, heat them up in the microwave, and eat them with a piece of toast, and you have a balanced meal. So the last thing I like to focus on is not all meals need to be fancy. We can take a few staples every week, and through the use of condiments, sauces, or semi-homemade ingredients, we can build meals that are going to give us the variety we tend to crave without all the extra work. So you can see in this example, I chose whole grain pasta, some roasted chicken. You could also use a rotisserie chicken if you don't have time to cook them, and then some broccoli. What can I do with that? Well, just by changing the sauce alone, I can have chicken parmesan one night, I can have pesto chicken the next night, and then I can throw some Italian dressing on there and take it for lunch the third day. They're 3 completely different meals. I'm not going to get tired of the flavor, but I'm getting those nutritious foods in the entire time with minimal prep work. And then, so we've done all these things. We've incorporated more fluids. We keep our caffeine to the beginning of the day. We're eating more balanced meals. How do we boost our energy even more? Well, studies show that 150 minutes of exercise a week, which breaks down to about 22 minutes per day, helps increase our sleep quality and duration. It decreases brain fog. It supports our mood and our memory, both formation and recall. So what have we learned today? We talked about our internal clock, our circadian rhythm, which is why we might be feeling tired. And then we talked about how we can support that formation even when we can't change our schedule. So we can consume a variety of plant-based nutritious foods. We can utilize the plate method to build those meals. And then we can make sure that we are enjoying breakfast, limit caffeine to the beginning of the day, and are making sure that we stay hydrated. And then if we're struggling with incorporating this, we can utilize those time-saving activities like meal prepping, having meal arsenals ready like our MVP meals, and utilizing versatile ingredients so that we don't get tired of those healthy foods. Okay, now is time if anyone has any questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Madison, for that wonderful talk. That was very informative. We do have a few questions. So Amy is asking, is there any benefit of fresh over frozen?
So this kind of goes back to the healthy foods are only healthy if you eat them. Fresh foods are going to contain nutrients that are maybe slightly easier for our body to utilize. But if the option between buying something is buying it fresh or frozen, the option is I would choose frozen. So you're not going to miss out on many nutrients by choosing frozen. Those are great options.
Great, thank you. So Shruti has 2 questions. One was, could you revisit slow burning versus fast burning carbs? So we will be sending the recording of this workshop to everybody. So you can always go back and see Madison's wonderful talk and all the advice that she has given there. But Shruti is also asking, are there any tips for people with dietary restrictions to find substitutes? So for example, vegetarians.
There are a ton of ways to find substitutes. So you can have a balanced diet as a vegetarian or with allergies. You just need to, I would definitely contact either a dietitian or a dietetic intern or talk to your primary care provider for individualized resources. But there are many websites, including that Minimalist Baker, that utilize a lot of allergy-friendly recipes to create those balanced meals.
Great, thank you. So Miroslava is asking, do you have some tips for vegans to have balanced meals and maintain energy during hectic days?
Yeah, so for vegans in general, you're going to be consuming less fat-rich products just because most plant foods don't have a lot of fat in them. So if you want to create and maintain your energy, make sure you're really focusing on those slow-burning carbohydrates, those whole grains. That's going to create no energy spikes that sometimes fruits and vegetables can give us. And then also make sure you're consuming enough fats. And we want those to be those healthy fats again. So monounsaturated sources.
Great. So, question from Jessica. Jessica's asking, how does a menstrual cycle impact how you should be feeding your body?
It definitely impacts it. That is something probably longer than I could discuss in a minute, but your body does have different needs during different times of your menstrual cycle. So I would just make sure to listen to your body. There's a reason that we have cravings right before, and that's because we're using more energy. There's a reason that we might feel more lethargic during certain times as well. So listening to your body, fueling it with what it wants, but also what it needs, which is healthy fats, protein, and carbohydrates.
So would you say during your menstrual cycle, those things are important to just consume more of, or do you
I
consume?
would, yeah, so I would definitely just make sure to consider that your body is an entire system, right? And so when we're craving something, we might not be craving, or our body might not need exactly what we're craving, but there's likely a portion of it that is telling us what we need. So if you're craving chocolate, you likely need more carbohydrates. If you're craving something salty, you might need more protein. And if you're creating or craving really fatty foods, you might need more healthy fats. So listen to your craving, but you can kind of, I like to look at it as balancing that external cue with your internal cue. So my external intuition is telling me I need chocolate. My knowledge, my internal intuition is telling me that chocolate might not actually be my need. I can have my chocolate, I can have a couple pieces of chocolate, but I might also need some carbohydrates. So I'm probably going to pair that with some fruit or a whole grain. So I can have my chocolate with a piece of toast and a side of berries. And I'm going to give my body better what it needs, but also what it wants. It's okay to do that occasionally.
Great. Risha has a question. People have general notion that pastas are not good for health. Any comments on that?
I like to go back to all foods can be incorporated into a healthy diet. Pastas, depending on the type that you buy, are going to be very energy dense. They've got a lot, people consume energy in the form of calories. So you get a lot of calories for very little other nutrients. So if your body needs more calories, that pasta is a great vehicle for that. But you can also find ways to eat that pasta and enjoy it while also enjoying things that are more nutritionally dense, like fruits and vegetables. So I like to use pasta as a vehicle. I'm not going to eat pasta plain. I'm going to pair it with maybe a vegetable heavy sauce and some healthy protein to make it a more well-rounded meal. I'm going to get the energy from the pasta, but I'm going to get the nutrients from those other things.
Okay, great. Any other questions for Madison? All right. So thank you again, Madison, for that wonderful talk. So our next speaker is Jordan Lowe. Jordan is the owner of Train Bloomington Fitness Center in Bloomington, Indiana, and a degreed fitness specialist. He has been an active part of the fitness industry for the past 20 years and studies under several of the world's foremost practitioners in osteopathic and corrective exercise. Jordan has coached a range of groups and individuals, including the leadership of the US Olympic Committee, White House officials, and world-renowned musicians. Jordan brings a unique and realistic approach to health and individualized success, which has allowed for incredible outcomes for both his executive coaching and physical training clients. So thank you so much, Jordan, for being here today, and I will
Thank you.
Get started.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And thank you, Protein Tech, for allowing me to be here today. My name is Jordan Lowe. I've been part of the fitness industry for over 20 years. I'm here today to hopefully get you guys to start thinking in a new way and in a new approach about your health. So let's go ahead and dive right in. the problem. We are horrible at exercising at scale, but it is really important to our health. So an interesting thing that plagues us as humans, certainly. In my 20 years of helping individuals and groups reach their health goals, it is abundantly clear that by and large, the fitness industry and as a society, we do a pretty lousy job of taking a practical and realistic approach to making ourselves healthier. I don't need to sit here in front of you, very intelligent individuals today, and express the validity of exercise. I think it's easy for most educated individuals to understand just how vital it is to our overall health, our quality of life, and longevity. But it's certainly an elusive practice for most of us. If you've not heard this before, let me be perfectly clear and frank. There are no magic pills, there are no magic exercises, and there are certainly no magic exercise formats that truly solve our inability to exercise at scale and lead healthier lives. It's kind of sad, but true. It is not our education level, nor income, or the level of intrigue that paves the way for a more successful fitness journey either. I have found that this struggle is one of humans' most common denominators, no matter who you are, where you are, or where you come from. Just to give you an idea, I own a successful gym. We have hundreds of members, and just like the rest of the country, 60% of all members of commercial gyms in the country do not attend the gym after their first month, which means the industry has been built with the knowledge that most will fail. So if you think about one of the local entities here, it has 13,000 members. It's a very large YMCA. Never could they ever fit all 13,000 people in the space, nor 6,000 or 3,000 or even 1,000. So the industry knows the issue. We just do a really poor job of helping people get through the issue. So I think it's time to accept that in this category of our life, this amazingly complex category, and we definitely need to view it as such, that we're not, in fact, the A students that many of you are accustomed to being. For the majority of us, we're vastly more akin to being the D student, the F student, who is trying desperately to get an A on the final, even though they've never received a letter grade that high in their entire life. And so to kind of chew on that reality and to understand that while we may be incredible students, incredible professionals, incredible life scientists, that not only are your peers as life scientists, but your peers amongst your neighbors, the people you're going to walk around every day, are going to certainly need more help than they will be able to help over the course of their lifetime. We're not very good at this. So once we start to accept these inconvenient truths, the sooner we can craft a more practical and realistic solution. So how are we supposed to do this incredibly hard thing? So it says here, motivation is a low octane and temporary fuel source, while discipline is a high octane and long lasting fuel source. And so what that really means is that we've all been motivated. Hey, I saw the ad on TV. I'm going to buy the AbFlex 2000 or whatever it may be. Or I'm so motivated, I'm going to go out and get a gym membership. And as we talked about, 60% don't make it past their first month. Motivation is a low octane fuel. When you go to the pump and you see 87, 88, 89 in the jet fuel, we're somewhere in the 80s range in terms of motivation. It acts as a spark, but it really doesn't act as what we really need to fuel our system. So discipline is a long-lasting fuel source. It works to get you to work today. It works to make the things that are the most difficult happen in your life. So many people have come before me motivated to make change. It's a spark, like I said, but it's simply not enough. That's why diet trends exist, because companies and individuals and friends and influencers can get us so motivated to try something because we're so desperate to latch on to the thing that may work. And that's that inconsistency that we need to kind of rid ourselves of, and the lack of practicality that we need to rid ourselves of. Everyone in this room, or everyone who's listening, has had something in a structured way that maybe they didn't even want to do at some point, but they did it anyway. They did it because they had to in order to get a really important desired outcome, like grad school or your job. That's discipline. That's the chops. That's what we really need. We can fuel an entire body, an entire life, an entire career on discipline. And many of you have done this in so many categories. This concept of discipline, though, made a lot more sense when we had to survive. I'm guessing not many of us here started out our day having had to drag their food up a mountain and back down, and to build shelter and to hunt and build fire and take care of our young in such a Paleolithic style way, in order to avoid being eaten, or in order to eat. So no one who's listening today is surviving. We are all living, which unfortunately takes that discipline quotient and drives it way down. Living means you can say, actually, I really need to get this experiment finished. So I'm going to skip dinner. I'm going to skip some sleep, or a lot of sleep, and skip investing into myself today. And maybe I'll try again tomorrow if I don't have another experiment, and if someone doesn't call on me, and if my kids are okay when I get home from work, and if it all goes to plan and the stars and moon, which seldom align for us that next day. That's the power or lack of power of motivation. It's our best intentions, but our best intentions often fall to the bottom of our priority list. In order to start building a realistic foundation of health, I promise you that it takes discipline. And the motivation piece is fine, but it's a bonus. It's extra. It's the spark that will then possibly get you some flames, but not necessarily. So as we move along here, creating a roadmap to your solution. So let's talk about the three main pillars of physical health, right? Fitness, physical activity, and nutrition. And so let's talk fitness. Fitness is the deliberate act of. The deliberate act of, I'm going to the gym, I'm going to do resistance exercises, I'm going on the treadmill, I am going to come home for work and go for a run. That is the deliberate, planned act of fitness. So it takes intention. It usually has a plan ahead of it. Physical activity is pretty much every other time you move. And so if we're thinking about Fitbit culture, or pedometers, the wearables that are in our phones and track our steps, that's our steps are what most closely equate to physical activity. And this is extremely important, because I can have any one of you in with me 7 days a week, personal training for an hour at a time. And no matter what, you're still going to be a human outside of the gym, mobilizing far more than that in your life. And so the fitness will never catch up to the steps per se. And so if we're really thinking about kind of quantifying the difference between fitness and physical activity, and we use steps, if we're going to the gym, if we're going to the deliberate act of, I'm going to go do shoulders and chest and cardio at the gym, theoretically, I should, at least for the purpose of this example, take off my Fitbit, because it is meant to be a tracker of physical activity. And so that is one of the, or now two of the three budget lines of physical health that we have. So very important there. Physical activity, we want to mobilize our whole lives. We don't necessarily need to deadlift or bench press or shoulder press an amazing, impressive amount our whole lives. But certainly when you're 91 or 81 or whatever your ripe old age ends up being, you want to be able to mobilize and get around. And finally, and Madison did such a lovely job of speaking about this, we have nutrition as our third pillar of our physical health. Extremely important here. Certainly one of the trickier ones to get a handle on, as you can see by some of the moving parts that Madison displayed earlier. But these are the three things that we need to focus on, the three budget lines, so to speak, of our physical health. And so the next thing to think about is tracking. So what can we do to give ourselves some data? You guys are scientists, you love data. And so we need to think about kind of doubling down on your strengths in order to get a positive outcome. And so if you love data and you're trying to get into a into increased physical health, then certainly the purchase of a pedometer would be great. It gamifies data. It's why the masses like it so much. It allows you to look at your watch, see how many steps you got. But we have other kinds of tracking too, like tracking calories, tracking what foods you ate, a little bit that Madison touched on. And that's really important and great. What we know behaviorally about tracking is that it's a pain in the butt. We can get people to do it certainly for a short while with a lot of motivation, but it really takes quite a large amount of discipline long term to track, and it's not always so realistic to do that after the short term. But it says here tracking data your way. And so any approach, any attempt into this is worthwhile here. And so track something. Track how much water you drank this week, if nothing else. Take small bites of this. Don't track everything that's going on, but track something small. How much water did you take? How did you feel today? This can be as easy as taking some notes here and writing a 1 to 10 score and maybe 3 words. I felt bad today. I felt great today. And so that you can flip through over the course of 30, 60, 90 days and see if you can see any patterns. Well, I certainly have an issue during the winter. It seems like I've had more bad days, or, oh my goodness, my work schedule is causing me to have a lesser quality of life. And simple tracking metrics allow us to do this. And you guys like this data thing. And so it's important that you use what you're already good at. It's really helpful. It says here also, accumulated exercise is the key to the scientist. Spoiler alert, accumulated exercise is also the key for anyone who is extraordinarily busy, like all of you. We know scientifically that it works. It's not just an empty claim. The best data shows 10-minute bouts. Certainly anecdotally, I would attest, and many of my colleagues would attest, that even smaller bouts of cardiovascular exercise, resistance training, and stretching and decompressive style movements can be valued at much, much smaller time intervals. What most people do when they come in to sign up for a gym membership is that you ask them, hey, how many days a week do you think you're going to be in here? And they say, oh, I'm going to do 6 days a week. Okay, well, how long are you going to be in here for? I'm going to be in here for 1 hour at least every single day for 6 weeks. It's just way, way too big of a bite of the pie. We're pretending that we're the A student sitting across from me buying the gym membership. And I know full well that at best case, maybe I have a C student, a B student in front of me. So we want to embrace that. We want to say it's tough to get to the gym 6, 7 days a week, 4 days a week, most days of the week. So can we take smaller bites of the pie and do a 5-minute bout? Maybe you have an experiment that can be left alone for a little bit, or maybe you're just in between writing some research down. But you can stand up and get some kind of calisthenic style movements, and setting a clock for 60 seconds or 3 minutes is absolutely effective. If we think about scale, right, which we think a lot about in business and in other aspects of our life, we need to do something, and we need to do it repetitively. And we need to make sure that we can do it 9 months from now and that it's still working for us. And so if I told everyone watching here to do 6 days a week of 1 hour long exercise, the outcomes would be grim. So taking a smaller bite and taking a practical bite of what is necessary for you and something you like. And it doesn't have to be something that it comes up on an Instagram search. So if you really just like, running in your backyard and throwing the ball with your dog, put some intention behind that, or put an activity tracker on that and see what you get there. So some key takeaways here. We must always use practical and tactical planning when making big life changes. Now, this applies to our health pillars, and this applies to the next job you're going to apply to, the next anything you're going to do in your life. If we take a strategic planning approach, which for so many people, you guys have participated in a strategic planning approach as it pertains to your research, as it pertains to your job. But the second we come home at 5 o'clock in the evening, things kind of fall apart there. So I always say that if you're going to make a big life change, any kind of adoption of exercise would be a big life change, that you have to have a tactic session, a war room session, where you're sitting down with I would say, a legal pad of your choice and going through it. What does tomorrow look like? I'm going to wake up at 6. My dog will have peed the house, and now I have to clean it up. Okay, write all of that down, so you get a sense of your timeline, so that you can see where you can fit in that nutritious breakfast, if that's your persuasion, or you can see where your meal prep needs to be, or you can just see how to go about your day, or how best to conquer whatever task is on the plate there. So having regular tactic sessions with yourself. Sundays are really good days for this, by the way, leading into what is usually for most people more hectic week, Monday through Friday. We must start viewing exercise through a discipline-centric lens rather than a motivationally centric lens. Like we said before, motivation is just a very short-term fuel. It will get you when you run out of gas and you have that little emergency thing in the back of your car to fill up with. It'll get you a couple miles, but it will not get you to the end of the marathon or to the finish line. We must be accepting of failure or faltering. Now, this one's important. This is important in life. This is certainly important in health. All of those people who came to join my gym over the course of time, who've told me they were going to show up 6 days a week and did not, they are not bad people. They're really good people. They were well-intended, and they faltered. They failed their goal-setting task. That's okay. What happens most of the time, however, is that once we falter, once we get off that horse, in this category, we seldom get back on, or there's a massive interval before we get back on. To accept failure on the onset, for me to say to all of you, if you go and try any of these tactics, or any tactics that of your own, that you'll likely fail in the first 30 days or falter in the first 30 days. And to accept that is to succeed before you start, because it is an experiment and it is a scientific process, and you are trying to get your data of previous engagements here. We must be kind to ourselves. Treat yourself the way you would treat your best friend. Let's talk about weighing in, the scale. I own a gym. I don't personally have a scale in my gym, because typically people are rather punitive to themselves when they hop on a scale. If you're doing something in your wellness pursuits, in your health pursuits, that makes you feel bad, stop doing it. That is not the point. The point here is longevity. The point here is to create more opportunities of fun and joy and success. And so if the scale is harming you when you step on it, don't use that as a metric. We have many other metrics, these journaling, these tracking abilities, all of these apps, and none of them have to have your weight put in. However, if you do want to use weight as a metric, a very kind approach to yourself is a Tuesday, Friday approach. We know by and large that nutritionally, we make our biggest mistake, so to speak, or we intake our most calories, is another way of saying that, usually around Friday evening to a Sunday evening. And so if we can kind of just go about this with a little more thoughtfulness on the onset of the week, we can get a much better result. If you called your friend, it says we must be kind to ourselves. Treat yourself the way you would treat your best friend. If your friend called you and said, I got on the scale and I'm 5 pounds up, you would likely not beat up your friend there and tell them how disappointed you are in their weight loss pursuits. You would bolster them up, and you would treat them well, and you would treat them respectfully and encourage them. And those are the same moments that we need to reserve for ourselves as well, with our self-talk and even with our talk amongst peers. We must accept the process and be students of the process. This is not easy. I just spent a lot of time of this talk not exactly making the most illustrious tourist brochure of fitness, but that's because I don't want to lie to you. It's an extremely complex and challenging thing to conquer. And so enjoy the process, experience the process, go through it, take note of it, make note of your faults, and high five yourself when you have successes. And know that it is not a 6-week plan. There are no 16-week plans that work or 1-year plans. This is a lifelong plan that will certainly ebb and flow with you through your life. Your life will change, and so will your health and wellness pursuits and how you go about getting them done. And so these are all very important takeaways to actually not be the statistic, to not be one of the 60% not making it to the gym, to actually follow through for longer than you have before, is to really think and have an introspective time with yourself and say, how do I take a smaller bite of this? How do I win tomorrow, not next week? How do I win this next hour or two and not next month? That is a vastly, vastly improved way to achieve scale than to lay it all on our shoulders at once. So thank you so much for your time today. You're all welcome to reach out to me at my email, trainbloomington@gmail.com. I'd be happy to field any questions that you may have, or if you're just looking for some more information. And if you have any questions, please feel free to go ahead and ask now. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, thank you, Jordan, for that very motivational talk. We do have a few questions. So Nancy asks, any thoughts on optimizing fat loss via cardio, resistance training, or a combination of both? There's a lot of controversy over whether or not you can lose weight and build muscle at the same time.
Yeah, I'd say there's good science that says that if you're nutritionally sound, right, which is, again, as I've spoken to you today, certainly a minority of people, but if you are in a wonderfully chemically balanced way, in an anabolic state, then certainly you can reduce body fat while increasing lean muscle mass. That has been shown time and time again at this point. It was definitely certainly controversial late 90s, early 2000s, but good data on that now to say that we can make that happen.
Great, thank you. Miroslavas asks, how can you tell that the exercise in balance with work is too much and not sustainable or beneficial anymore?
First off, if you hate it, don't do it. If you just hate it, it's not balanced. The point of life is to enjoy it. And we lose some sight of that, I think, sometimes with these incredible, and as scientists, as with these incredible schedules, 12-hour plus schedules, possibly some days, we lose sight of we have joy in our work, but there should be joy elsewhere. And so it's important to observe a fitness, wellness, nutrition regime that is doable for you, that is practical, that the question earlier of fresh versus frozen, what are you going to do? What can we scale, right? And so what happens is that everyone wants the magic key, but nobody wants to go to kindergarten when they're in their 20s, 30s, 40s. And we need to go to kindergarten, and then we need to go to first grade. And once we're in first grade and we realize we don't like chocolate ice cream, but we like vanilla and we like some vegetables, we can go to the next grade. And to treat ourselves as infantile in this process will give us a much, much more potent result long-term than the vast majority of your peers currently and that you will ever meet.
Great, thank you. So we have some words of gratitude from Roman, Carmel, and Seward, who really enjoyed the talks. So great job, you guys.
Well, thank you.
We have a question from Risha, who says, do we really need to monitor our intake diet through weekdays/weekends with the exercise scale very strictly? How to start with that?
With the exercise, what was that last part?
Scale very strictly.
With the exercise scale very strictly?
Yes. So it says,
give me that one more time.
do we really need to monitor our intake diet through weekdays/weekends with the exercise parentheses burnouts scale very strictly? How to start with that? Sure.
So nobody needs to do any of this. That's the reality. Tracking is an aid is something to help you. And so if it doesn't help you and if it hinders you, don't do it. I have plenty of clients that have lots of anxiety around tracking their workouts, tracking their calories. If you track your calories, it means you probably have to weigh some food and These are big asks and heavy lifts. The point is to get the ball rolling. Do something that you could theoretically call me 7 days from now and say, hey, Jordan, guess what? I walked around the block 7 times. That metric is much, much more important than filling in the apps, which are a great option for some, but not necessary for everyone. So finding something that works for you, again, a smiley face, sad face, frowny face on a piece of paper is a very, very valuable tool.
Great. There's a question from Katie that says, any recommendations for places to find good exercises that we can do during lab incubation? So 10 minutes or less.
Sure. So definitely typing in to Google calisthenic-based body weight movements. So if you have, all you really need is an arm's distance space around you, which most people can attain pretty easily at their workspace. Doing things like, and I have a limited space here, but doing things like sit to stands allow you to get a squatting action at your desk and reaching global movements. What is happening so much at the desk, and I'm going to want to get on camera here. This is kind of the exaggerated view of most people in a computer or desk setting or in a lab setting. And so again, because we're not surviving anymore and we're just living, so much of our time is spent with a contraction of our pectoral muscles, which and a loosening or weakness of our posterior chain or back muscles. And so to prioritize bringing these up and stretching these out and being mindful during a workday of posture and not falling onto especially at those late hours, falling onto the keyboard or falling onto the table or shopping cart at the end of the day as you're pushing through Kroger, are all really important things to keep in mind at your desk. But body weight movements, calisthenic type movements, things that would look like an old school workout tape warm-up video, or an old step class is a great way of searching them. Nothing crazy. No one needs to bring 10-pound dumbbells to their desk, okay? There's a place for those, but if we can just elevate your heart rate a few times throughout the day, you'll see the results at scale.
Perfect. All right, we have one more question and then we'll move on to the raffle. So Rohini says, thank you for the wonderful talk. How many days of strength training do you recommend in a week? And any ideas on how many reps per muscle group to help maintain/build muscles that's practically possible?
Sure. So how many days a week, again, goes back to, is there a perfect physiological answer? Probably. But that means so little to us, to the bulk of us. The best, most fit people in my gym miss many, many, many workouts, many, many days of the year of not working out. So what's the best split routine? Which one can you pull off at scale? Which one allows you proper rest and relaxation, both mentally and physiologically, to be your best the next week, to go attack your workouts and to attack your job and your experiments again? That is the kind of thinking that we want to kind of re-tailor here after this talk about what is right for me. The answer is you may not know right now, but if you do some tracking this week, maybe some journaling, and say, boy, after 4 days a week, I still feel like I got plenty left in the tank. But if you're someone else who may be listening to this and say, gosh, after 2 minor workouts, I'm spent. Great. We all start in different places, right? And so making sure that you don't have signs of overtraining, you're not experiencing signs of fatigue. Again, all of this, both Madison and my talk, are made to elevate you and to help you and to make you feel good. And so if you're getting diminishing returns on your investment, then stop investing in that one. All right? Trade the stock.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Jordan and Madison, for your awesome talks. They were very informative. If you guys have any more questions for them, feel free to email us at events@ptglab.com, and we will definitely get those questions over to Jordan and Madison for you. But now I want to do the raffle, which we have 2 great prizes. So our first prize, which should help a little bit with the diet, is a box to HelloFresh. So if I call your name and you are here, please type something into the chat box. We will reach out to you and get your information and then send you your prize. So please allow 30 days for delivery. So as I mentioned, the first prize is a box to HelloFresh, and our winner for that is Sunantha Kosan Sirilak. If you are in the chat, please type Protein Tech is awesome. If you are here. Otherwise, we will move on. Awesome. Okay, so we got our first winner.
Yay.
Great. So we will be in touch with you to get your information. And our second prize to help with kind of the counting your steps and things like that Jordan was talking about, we have a Fitbit that we are giving away. So our Fitbit winner is Sewart Huglier. If you are here, please type, that's my Fitbit. Oh, or Protein Tech is awesome. Sorry, I didn't see your message. Either one works. You're here. All right, great.
Hey, just to interrupt, Frida. Seward, go ahead and email me how your steps go after you receive it. I want to hear all about it.
Great, awesome. So those are our winners for today. Please check out Lab Life Balance Part 2, which is on Thursday. And I just have one more slide that I want to share because I don't want anyone to leave empty-handed. So we are, there you go. Giving free samples for all attendees. So don't worry about copying down this link. We will send you an email with this link, but you can select a free sample of a Protein Tech antibody, NanoTrap, or protein of your choice to sample and try out, and just follow this link and fill out the information. And as I mentioned, if you have any questions for Jordan, Madison, or even myself, please email events@ptglab.com, or you can email me directly at afrida@ptglab.com. So with that, I will stop sharing, and we'll thank everyone for joining us today, and have a great rest of ELSA, and make sure to join us on Thursday. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Everybody.